anyway, man, what's going on, man? Shout out to everybody at the Court Plantation. Shout out to homegirl LaTanya, Miss Tanya, you know, all y'all. That's the homegirl. That's my extended family at the Court Plantation and shit. Gotta fuck with them. Shout out to everybody out there that's handling business and making it do what you need to do to survive. And let me tell you something. It ain't as fun as you think when you gotta handle real business. And that's the thing about life. We have to know how to handle business and do what we need to do. We got a lot of shit to discuss. One of the main things that I feel like we gotta discuss right now would be making sure that you are all right, making sure that you handling business, and making sure you're doing what you need to do to maintain the what you have going on. And you gotta worry about yourself first before you worry about somebody else. Shout out to my brother No Compromise, man. I was on one of his lives. It was a very good conversation because I agree with that brother. A lot of the shit that brother was saying, not No Compromise, but he had another young brother on there, and he was saying some real shit. He was saying some real shit about niggas spend on what they want and then beg for the shit that they need. And I am a firm believer in that shit does happen a lot. And I think we just need to get that shit together and come together as a people. Now I do agree with my brother No Compromise. He was dropping jewels at the end. I didn't mean to, man, shout out to No Compromise. I didn't mean to take over your live, man, but it's such a good conversation because we were talking about reparations and things like that. And we have to understand, man, when you're talking about reparations for foundational Black Americans, we have to understand we built this country for free with no repayment. You can't build a house and then somebody's family lives there and then their family lives there and then their family, then their kids, and then, but nobody never pays for the house that was built. That just doesn't happen in the United States of America Incorporated. But only here, everybody else gets reparations. It's not talked about. But when it comes to Black folk, it's like, oh, we don't need it. It's like, no. We need reparations too. We are victims of racism and white supremacy, and this is a systemic system that has been constructed by the dominant society to keep us in an oppressed situation forever, and keep us locked in this circle figure eight or wheelhouse where, you keep turning the wheel, but nothing ever happens. You just keep turning it. So shout out to everybody out there. If you're begging at the Court Plantation, I don't know what the fuck to say to you. Shout out to everybody out there too that is telling at the goddamn Court Plantation. Shout out to motherfuckers that just do their job and get the fuck out of there, man. I was having a conversation with one of my Haitian sisters too, man. Shout out to Haiti. Shout out to Jean-Jacques Dessalines and R.I.P. that brother. That's an ancestor. And Dirty Bookman. I keep forgetting to show that plaque I got. That shit is cold. But man, we gotta really understand, man. We was having this conversation today, and she was like, man, nigga, nigga, you do what you need to do and get the fuck on. All this other bullshit, stop. And that's what we gotta be on. We gotta stop being on all this other bullshit. You know what I'm saying? We have to understand we have to be on code. There has to be a code that's established. So we gonna get into it. We definitely gonna talk about Whoopi. Oh, y'all didn't think we was gonna talk about Whoopi Goldberg. Oh. Wake up, nigga, as Paul Mooney said. Wake up, nigga. Wake up. What do you do? That motherfucker hit the mic. Wake up, nigga. Wake up. So we gonna talk about that shit today. So let's get into it. Cut this motherfucking music down. Let's cut this motherfucking music down, man. Shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to Erica, Shawnee, Tasha, Tamisha, all y'all that's out there. LaTanya, Miss Tanya, whoever listening, man. Shout out to y'all, man. This is gonna be a brief one, man. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, man, we was having this conversation. Before I get into the Whoopi Goldberg thing, I want to discuss what we had this conversation on last night. I don't be on Instagram that much, but when I do, I be trying to catch good conversations. And my boy, No Compromise, man, my boy David, man, from the No Compromise podcast, he had this live with this brother, and I was just listening and checking in, and it was a very good conversation. And I like the brother's perspective because it wasn't a unique perspective, but it was a good perspective on what he was saying. Because he was saying it in terms of like, well, niggas ain't gonna do shit with the money and whoop. And we, sometimes we need to come together and we need to learn how to get along and stop chasing bitches and chasing jewelry and cars and clothes. And we need to be more on code with each other. So before we worry about reparations, that's what I kind of took from what he was saying. Like, before we even worry about reparations and all this other shit, we need to come together as a people. You know what I'm saying? Hey, what's going on, No Compromise? Thanks for really being on, family. Very well appreciated. Oh man, it was my pleasure, man. My humble pleasure. Thank you. I really appreciate it, my brother, man. That's my brother right there, man. It was a very good conversation. I like the brother's points. I don't know the brother's name, but that dude was very intelligent, and he was dropping some science though. He just was like, we have bad spending habits. We don't want to hold ourselves accountable. And it wasn't the way he was saying it, it wasn't from a Sambo perspective or a Coon perspective. He wasn't saying it to gain favor from the dominant society. I didn't take that from that. I took it from, he was coming from the perspective of, nigga, get your ass up, get out and do something. Because these niggas ain't gave us shit yet. That's where I took from it. And like, let's be on code. Let's support each other. Let's do things that we need to do to come together. That's what I took from his perspective. And I'm just paraphrasing it. So it wasn't a Sambo or a Coon, because I would have, if it was, I would have detected. I didn't detect that from that brother at all. I detected I detected was, I feel like we don't need reparations because we're not together as a group. That's what I interpreted from what my brother was saying. Just listening to his kind of definitions and how he felt about the situation. That's just what I got from it. So, the gracious host, my brother David from No Compromise Podcast, he allowed me to get in there because I asked, well, can I get in on this topic? And I basically, some of his facts was backwards though, but he was dope though. Yeah. See, you know what? His perspective was not unique, but I'm telling you, I just think it was from the perspective of, we need to come together. We need to have accountability amongst ourselves, and we need to learn how to be on code before we even talk about getting money. Because if we dysfunctional, we don't have no money, then what are we gonna do when we have it? And then he's entitled to that perspective. And I love that brother for that, because we were able to have an open dialogue, but not argue about the shit. And like I said, my brother No Compromise, man, he allowed me to get into the conversation, and I love the conversation. And I politely, No Compromise, no. Look, I politely, y'all know me, man. Once you start reading shit, you don't have to come from just your experience. You have to come from documented history. You came on there clear and cleared up a lot though. And the first thing I mentioned was Never Caught, the untold story of Una Judge. That was Martha Washington's slave. She was already a wealthy white woman. And here's the thing that we don't understand about, and this was written by a black sister too. And in this book, because you got to read it. Motherfuckers don't read the book, they get the book. I'm gonna need you to turn the pages. Turn the pages, clown. Turn the pages. And turn the pages. See, some of the stuff I got highlighted, you can't see it. But the thing that stuck out to me the most about the untold story of Una Judge, because Una Judge was Martha Washington's slave. George Washington married her because she had bread. She already had bread. Sort of like an endowment or something like that. Like, back in the day, in those days, men were known for marrying women that had money and wealth, because they would get it, a lot of women would get it passed down from slavery and plantations and shit. So what I did was, I tried to come from the perspective of, here are the reasons why I think that we need reparations, because here's the documented history. And the one thing that I told him was, if you build a house without repayment and everybody's living in it, but you never receiving no rent, no mortgage, no nothing, and you built the house, that's a problem. And then I used Una Judge. Now, the untold story of Una Judge, she was Martha Washington's slave, like I just said. And Martha Washington and George Washington, I think they lived in Virginia. It was Virginia. Now, Martha Washington had 17,500 acres of land. Now, we couldn't even get 40 acres in a mule. But this bitch had 17,500 acres of fucking land. That's all I kept saying on No Compromises Live. I said it about 20 times because I wanted to resonate. I wanted to really sink in. Like, while we're up here holding ourselves to this moral compass about how we need to be together, the dominant society is passing along through generational wealth 17,500 acres of fucking land. Now, if you live on the East Coast, let's go the low. If you live in Las Vegas, Nevada, or if you live in Texas or somewhere where it's economically cheaper than most, an acre of land would probably run you about $1 million. But let's go to Maryland, DC, Baltimore. Let's go to New York, New Jersey. What would 1 acre of land be right now? It'd probably be $8-9 million for an acre of land. We're not talking about building on, we're just talking about dirt. Now, 17,500 acres of land, y'all don't see nothing odd with that? And that was just one example of why. That was just one example, and I kept saying it over and over, not to be facetious, not to be an asshole or try to make it seem like I'm educated, because it's not about bringing up this book and that book, but it's about quoting your sources and letting your brother, sister know, look, these are the reasons why. Now, you mean to tell me black folk couldn't get 40 acres and a mule, and this bitch got 17,500 acres of land? You say, well, Warren, you just saying it. Well, she got it off the backs of black labor, because it's already been proven that the dominant society could not build this country. If you read medical apartheid, them motherfuckers dropping like flies, doing all these plagues and shit, because they couldn't be out there in the hot sun. They couldn't survive when it was either yellow fever. Yellow fever was killing all the motherfuckers. Yeah, it was killing some black folk too, but it was more killing white people. And they don't like to talk about that. But in medical apartheid, it does. And when you read that book, I don't know which fever it is, but I almost for sure, quote me if I'm wrong, no compromise, Erica. In that book, Medical Apartheid, those fucking slave masters was coming out on the porch and looking like, why the fuck ain't none of these niggas sick? But we all dying. So we have to understand this. They needed us to build the country. They needed us to build the railroads. See, they got this misnomer that the Chinamen built the railroads. Some white motherfucker tried to tell me this shit too. I feel bad because we forced the China. I'm like, yeah, I know you don't know no history. No, we built the railroads. They just finished some shit we already did. It's called the Chain Gang. It's called the Prisoner Pipeline. It's called Slavery by Another Name by Douglas Blackman. Motherfuckers don't want to read this shit, man. And what I was trying to get my young brother to understand was, for 500 years, let's just take the last 100 years and say 400 or 250, doesn't matter. We built the country for free off the backs of black labor. Black labor equals white wealth, like Dr. Claude Anderson talks about. So, and even in his book. So with that being said, we did all of that for free, and you got all these dominant society people in the now. We're not talking about back in the day, in the now, that are billionaires because of the backs of black labor. There's a repayment that needs to be here, because I'm gonna tell you right now, we will hold another nigga's foot to the fire if you gave him $100 15 years ago because he's about to get evicted, and then now this nigga got hundreds of thousands of dollars. What is the first thing you gonna say? Man, I gave that motherfucking nigga $100 because he's about to get kicked out. This nigga can't even give me no money. See, we hold ourselves to this moral standard and this moral compass, but then when it comes to the dominant society, we let them off so easily. And that's why I said, sir, the Holocaust happened in Europe, but they get reparations from the United States of America Incorporated every year. He's like, oh, because they run everything. No, not just because they run everything. That's because it's called benign neglect. We're not going to talk about the reparations for the Chinamen or for Japan or for all these other racial groups. But they got their reparations, though. We're not going to talk about that. And when you start speaking on that, it becomes a problem. So that's what we discussed. And I just hope that brother received my perspective, because there is a debt that needs to be repaid. And we also mentioned redlining and Jim Crow and gentrification and all these things that have been set up, for us to be behind the line. So I did bring up those points, and hopefully that it resonated with that brother a little bit, man, because what happens is when we start publicly saying we don't need reparations, white folk, the dominant society, runs with that. Especially when you educate and you can talk with some sense and you're articulate, they will run with that shit and be like, oh, well, see, he doesn't think you guys need reparations. And then what it does is it makes the movement become decadent, and then it muddies up the waters. And what happens is now the dominant society can frame this picture that, oh, a lot of black Americans don't think they need reparations, and they'll run with that. So that's why we have to have these discussions with our people without arguing and trying to debate them, but just giving them the information that is needed so they can go study it for themselves. Because if we don't know history, we don't know where we're going. And we got to understand that. That's why we have to stay reading and studying and researching ourselves and not just going off what's on Instagram and what's going off what somebody told you. Which brings me to my point about Whoopi. She got her nigga wake up call from the master. See, now when it was when it was slavery and they killing, raping, pillaging, doing all these horrible things to native blacks or foundational black Americans in the United States of America Incorporated, it wasn't a big deal. It was a crime against humanity. Now she used that same shit for the Jews. Them Jews, the white motherfucking Jewish people like, fuck you, bitch. You not one of us anyway. You're suspended. But see, that's what you get when you think you are a part of a culture that allows you to be a part of their culture with constraints. Whoopi Goldberg, you are a guest in the house of the white Jewish community. Remember that. I hope he received it too, because I almost fell over in my chair when he said that. Yeah, me too. And I'm gonna say it again about Whoopi. See, I kept tweeting, but nobody would tweet me back. I said, so is Jewish a race or is a religion? Because a race, we can say, well, it's only one race, and that's the human race. But the dominant society does not classify us that way. We are broken down and classified in the terms that the dominant society has given us. If you're black, you are so-called African American. If you are Mexican, then you are so-called Hispanic or a white Hispanic. If you're white, you're so-called white. If you're Italian, you're still so-called white. Stop. This is how you're classified. But now all of a sudden they have muddied up the waters and made it where being Jewish is a race. Are you from Israel? You know what I'm saying? No, you're from the United States of America, but this is some shit that y'all say, okay, well, we're gonna make it a race now. And we're the chosen people, and we're gonna make it a race. And a lot of people don't understand, is it a race or is it a religion? How you gonna be a race and a religion? Like, that doesn't make sense. So African American is a religion too? No, it's not a religion. But because the dominant society, as Tariq Nasheed says a lot of times, I'm white and I say so. I'm on that chapter right now, and it's real. I'm white and I say so. And what Whoopi Goldberg needs to understand is, you're so busy thinking you can say and comment on certain things, and guess what? They check the fuck out of you and let you know, bitch, you cannot, unless you are in alignment with us, you cannot co-sign anything that is oppositional or may look bad. So what they did to our brother Nick Cannon, that's what they did to Whoopi Goldberg. And y'all notice there's one common denominator: the dominant white society. Whether they're the white Jewish community, it doesn't matter what they are, as long as they're a part of the dominant society, it does not mean nothing. I do not like how they always try to compare and contrast the white Jewish Holocaust struggle to black folk. 5 million Jews passed away or died, and that was horrible. But let's count all the black people that were killed during slavery, all the black women that were raped, all the black brothers that were buck broken and made to have sex with every different woman around there so they can keep producing slaves. Stop. See, Hitler, what he did to the white Jewish community was horrible. That was fucking horrible. But see, he just killed them. He didn't bring them there. Let's rape them all and then make them rebuild what we have. No, he just killed them. See, us, we went through a different type of torture. That's why that's in our DNA. That's why when me and my brother No Compromise, we was talking with the brother about the Africans versus foundational black Americans. See, there's a different perspective because a lot of our African brothers and sisters from the diaspora, they come here and they're only going with the narrative that has been framed a certain way and the narrative that has been given to them by the dominant society. That's why a lot of the times they come here with this preconceived notion that every black person is a gangbanger and every black person have a whole bunch of kids everywhere and they're not a family man and they don't go to work, and that's why they're so quick. Oh, you Akatas are lazy, that bullshit. You know what I mean? And that's why there's such a separation between our African brothers and sisters and our foundational black Americans. My perspective and what I gave last night is this. You need to understand that there needs to be a certain level of respect when you come to the United States of America, because we built this for free and we didn't run. We stayed here. And a lot of people don't understand how significant that is, that foundational Black Americans stayed here. Because all these other people and all these other racial groups, they leave where they're at to come here. And in the great words of Dr. Claude Anderson, if you're not a native to this landmass and you come to this country, you are a freeloader and you're here for unearned benefits. So when you disrespect foundational Black Americans, or native blacks as Dr. Claude Anderson calls it, and make it seem like we didn't do anything for this country so you can dog whistle to the dominant white society, you are now an opposition to the movement. You are a coon, you are a Sambo, you are a Hayward Shepherd, tell him about the gun line, Steven from Django. And I cannot fuck with that. And that's why it's important to have a dialogue and make sure you have an open dialogue and understand what people are saying. Like with the Whoopi Goldberg thing, there was really nothing she said wrong. She made it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal, or compared and contrasted to somebody else's racial onslaught. But the dominant society, the white Jewish people, they're gonna give you your wake-up call. You know what I mean? And when our hooks, all of our hooks, unless you're an entrepreneur, you totally do your own shit, you're contractually obligated anyway to bend the knee. All of us, if we work a corporate plantation job, you're gonna have to bend the knee, you're gonna have to acquiesce. But we have to understand this, even though you're contractually obligated to bend that knee, that doesn't mean you go around giving the pound cake speeches, because like they have done our brother Bill Cosby over and over again. They liked it when Bill Cosby was giving the pound cake speech to niggas, but then when Bill Cosby was trying to make moves for niggas, they like, oh no nigga, wake up call. And that's what we have to understand. And see, which brings me to my point about the great comedian Monique. Now, a lot of people was getting on Monique, but a lot of what she said on the Breakfast Club, in my personal opinion, I kind of agree with that shit, because I know how the dominant society will do you. You know what I'm saying? I seen both parts. And everything that Monique has been saying has happened. Like, I like what Monique said. Well, why didn't you take advice from Whoopi Goldberg? Because Whoopi Goldberg gonna pull her to the side and say, I could have schooled you. She said, why would I take advice from a black woman who married a white man who dressed up in blackface? Check. And now look, bitch. See, every time people they get to try to speak to you from a standpoint of a condescension, because white dad and white mom and white brother has patted them on the head and said, you're a good Negro, you're not one of those niggers over there. Then you feel like you could talk crazy to black people. Now, Whoopi, you said you was gonna school Monique. I could have schooled you. Now, bitch, let's school you. You're not Jewish. Unless we're talking in terms of the religion, but in terms of the race and skin color, you're not one of them. And you've gotten your wake-up call, and get ready to get your apologies out there again, and you're gonna keep apologizing because you already know what it is. Because you think you was part of them. And that's what happens when you want to talk down or condescending to your own people, and then because you've been around the dominant society so long, and then you say something out of alignment with them, and then guess what they do? They pull your card. So that's what you get, bitch. With your bitch ass for thinking, oh, I'm gonna talk crazy to Monique. No, talk crazy to them dominant society motherfuckers. I'm not talking about this arguing and bantering back and forth on The View. I'm talking about real shit. It's real racist shit that go on, and motherfuckers won't speak on the shit. But a motherfucker, well, let me school you. Nah, and I don't blame Monique for being like, bitch, what you mean let me school you? School me in what? Man, get the fuck out of here. And I don't blame her. Salute to Monique for that shit. I don't agree with everything everybody's saying. They don't agree with me. But from my perspective, it's like, well, that's what you get. And Nick Cannon's situation was very different. Nick Cannon had books up there where he got that information from. I just think he phrased it wrong. I think my brother Nick Cannon just phrased it wrong so they can go into victim mode and make it seem like you talking all this crazy shit about Jewish people. No, he could have phrased it like, No, these are the books where this information came from. I'm just talking from a perspective of this book. We're not saying it's right or wrong. It's just this is where the information come, and I welcome to bring somebody on and bring their books on. The only thing that I didn't particularly like, and I understand because Nick got to do what he got to do, is that you brung that Jewish motherfucker on there and he was shitting on Farrakhan and talking a whole bunch of shit about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I don't like that at all. That's what I don't like. I don't like Vlad TV. I don't like none of them motherfuckers. And it has nothing to do with them being white and being Jewish. It has everything to do with them benefiting from racism, white supremacy, and acting like they don't. Because they know a black person here and a black person there, and then they want to denounce this racism shit all over. But Vlad TV was the same sucker motherfucker that tried to tell us what reparations we should get. And that's what I'm saying. Why is it every other racial group, they going for the money, but then when it comes to our reparations, every other racial group want to tell us what we should get for reparations? Man, fuck all that. And stop even entertaining that conversation. That's not even a real conversation. You're not in on when they fucking get reparations for the white Jewish community. And that happened in Europe. All these other motherfuckers, they get reparations, they ain't even happen over here. It went over there. We built the country for free and got slaughtered. Mass incarceration, Jim Crow, lynchings, redlining, gentrification, rape, robbed, pillaged, robbed of our name, our knowledge, our God, all of that shit. And the motherfucker want to say, well, you guys should get free education. No, y'all motherfuckers can get free education. Nigga, I need the yams. I need the cash money. That's where I lost it for Nick. I know, man. And I understand, Nick, man. I understand he had to do what he had to do. Because he's in a position where he's helping a lot of black people. You say, well, you get them schools? Excuse, in a way, I am. In a way, I am. You know why? Because that brother helps a lot of black people. So I get it. We need those people in positions of power to help our people. Now, I can see if Nick is on there just buck dancing and cooning. I ain't seen Nick buck dance and coon. I seen Nick look out for his paper. I seen Nick say, fuck it, I'm going to just bite this bullet because I got a lot of people that I'm taking care of. And I'm trying to put a lot of my people on. So I'm not mad at Nick for that at all. I'm not mad at Nick at all for that shit. I'm not, because I understand. It's like black folk at the job. You might say something slick, and if they like, if you don't apologize, you gonna lose your job. Some people be like, fuck you then. But some people, if they feed mouths, I'm not talking about you making $20,000, $30,000 a year. I'm talking about you making $250,000 a year. You taking care of a lot of people. You gonna be like, all right, fuck it, I'll just bite that bullet. There's always gonna be, I feel to me, our black brothers and sisters that are going to do what they need to do to keep their paper to make sure they're helping their people. Nick helps a lot of black folk. And you can say I'm making an excuse. All right, then fucking I am. Nigga, Wildin' Out done helped a lot of niggas' careers. Period. And I'm not just talking about white people. I'm talking about black people. Nick Cannon does a lot of shit behind the scenes for black folk. We just don't see a lot of it, so we feel like, this nigga. But I'm going to say, like I said on a podcast before, I don't agree with how he framed it on that show with Professor Griff. I felt like he should have came from the perspective of as an interviewer and not, I'm agreeing with him. Because then they couldn't have said shit. Because then all Nick had to have done, in my personal opinion, is say, that's why we're going to have a Jewish rabbi on so we can get his perspective on, not just the Holocaust, on how they interact with black folk and, these books, and get some of his books. Then they could have never said nothing. You know what I mean? But that's okay. You live and you learn. And I'm glad that that brother's still in that position to help black folk. Because I really feel in my heart, Nick Cannon really has a lot of love for his people and he wants to help his people. But Whoopi Goldberg? Nah, bitch, you don't get, nah. You can't be telling no motherfucker I can school you and all this other shit like you a part of them. And then, look, they did you the same way. Nah, bitch, fuck you. That's what you get. So, sorry, Whoopi. You on your own when it comes to that one. But anyway, man, I appreciate everybody listening, subscribing. No compromise, man. We got to do that again, man. We got to do it again and have a live or whatever. I appreciate everybody listening, subscribing. Listen to me when you're at work. It makes more sense. And if you're out there making excuses, talking about, well, Whoopi didn't know and all this other shit, and taking up, nigga, you better look at the facts and just taking up for and all this other stuff. Y'all need to look. Whoopi Goldberg is, first of all, that's not even her real name. Ain't no black person born and raised with no name Whoopi Goldberg. Stop. Stop with the bullshit. So stop. But anyway, man, if you're making excuses, and you're making excuses for the white dominant society and all the treacherous things that they have done to black folk, then All I have to say is I don't fuck with you. Let me reach. Do you think it would have been definitely if Nick had a black rabbi on? Yeah. You know what? If he would have had a black rabbi on, they wouldn't have took that. They want a white. They want someone that looks like them. That's a fact. Much love, fam. Hey, and if you're making an excuse for the dominant society and say, oh, poor Whoopi, then all I gotta say is I don't fuck with you. Guilty, nigga. I'm out. Peace. Shit.